Hello and welcome everyone. Today I Bhakti Jain, your today's host, welcome you all to this evening where we have our pre-online workshop for introduction to DevOps and getting started with DevOps. Uh, so it is the pre-hackathon session which will be organized by Data Code community. So, first of all, I would like to thank you all for joining us on today's Sunday evening. Before starting, I would like to introduce to us today's special guest, Prateek Singh. He is a DevOps engineer and a software developer. He has a knowledge of Kubernetes and Go. Also, he is an ex intern at Jaspe GitHub and also a Linux Foundation expert. And also a winner of Polygon Hackathon. I would like to call you all to give a big round of applause to welcome Mr. Prateek Singh.
Hello, host. Hi, everyone. It's, it's my pleasure to be here. Today, we'll be talking about how to get started with DevOps, and that's the whole gist of this presentation. I'll try to keep it as simple and as layman so that everyone, even if a fresher is watching this who has just started college, can understand it. So, could you just share the slides, please, and we'll get started. Right. So, today's session is how to get started with DevOps. So first of all, my formal introduction. So I'm Prateek Singh. Currently, I'm working at Mercari, Japan as a CI/CD engineer. If anyone wants to get in touch with me, they can scan this QR code and they will get my socials. It's very weird, but you can find me on any social media with the name Kitar29. It's just my name reversed and my birthday. When I started, I did not know, but now I'm sticking to it. So moving ahead, what I've done so far. Currently, as I told you, I'm working as a CI/CD engineer at Mercari, Japan. Before this, I have worked in HackerRank, GitHub, JustPay, at different roles such as software developer, being a SRE, being in the platforms teams. So I have worked in these companies. I have been a part of some other startups as well, and thus I have struggled in the last 2 years in DevOps, and I would like to ease the roadmap and give a better overview of this whole domain to the freshers and the listeners today. So moving ahead, what we'll learn today. So first of all, I would like to introduce to everyone what is DevOps. Then we'll learn about how to get started. This will be a longer explanation, and that will be the majority of the presentation. And lastly, we'll learn how to look into the opportunities in this domain, right? So let's get started. So what is DevOps? If you go to the formal definition, it's really, to be honest, for a fresher, it will be overwhelming. I'll try to explain it in this way. Suppose there is one person who is writing the code, and there's another person who is ensuring that that code, whichever that person is, the first person is writing, is available to everyone on the internet. That can be accessed by anyone at any point of time. Right? That's operations, and the first one is a developer. DevOps is a combination of the two. A person A who is writing the code, and a person B who is maintaining the code on the internet. That's basically DevOps. Right? The whole procedure and the domain, whatever we as DevOps engineers do is we ensure that the product that you're using that keeps up on the internet 24/7. Whether you are using Instagram, we are using StreamYard as of now, or YouTube, whatever you are using, all of these products are maintained by DevOps on the internet. Okay, so we'll get to the list. This is actually the list that I have made about how to get started with DevOps. If anyone who is listening to this session, I would like to, you can grab a screenshot of this and keep this list because moving forward in the session also, we'll explore this list in detail only. These are 7 basic things that I think any DevOps engineer should learn. And this is the actual way to learn it. It's not like you can start with number 5 and move to number 2 or number 1. It's not like that. So it's in that particular order. आप chronology समझिए. and then move on to the list, right? So let's get started on the list, right? Okay. So learning a programming language. I know it sounds very, what is redundant at this point that a software developer should learn a programming language. A lot of people do think that as a DevOps engineer, you don't have to write code. It's not at all true. To be honest, tomorrow is Monday. Again, I will go back to work and I will be writing some code in Golang. I will be writing some scripts probably in Python. And it's not like that, without learning a programming language, you can start in DevOps. Learning a programming language is most important in this domain as well. Because until and unless you know how the code underlying works, you can't actually ensure that you can keep it running on the systems. You can keep it running on someone else's computer, right? So learning a programming language, that's a very big, topic to talk about in itself. I'll not explain it in much, but what I would suggest is pick any one language. Don't get started with the fight of, which language to pick, whether Java, C++, Golang. I don't care. Honestly, if I am telling about myself, I started with C++, then I moved on to JavaScript, Golang, Python. But it's not necessary that what worked for me might be the way for you, right? So you can start with C++, you can start with Java, whatever. Now, a lot of people will ask what should be the resource to get started, right? So you can start with YouTube. That's not at all a problem. You can start with Free Code Camp. That's a very good resource out there. You will get, I think there is a course on JavaScript of 300 hours. I have personally did it. It will teach you a lot about JavaScript. Then there are a lot of platforms. So, in this world right now we are living, whereas there's not lack of information, there is an abundance of information, right? And at point it gets overwhelming. So to help you out there, there are many edtech companies that are working on it. There is Udemy. There's a lot of companies similarly which are offering courses on this. I'm not suggesting again that you can go for XYZ company for this course or this anything. I'm not promoting anyone at this point. This I'm saying that that's an other alternative as well if you don't understand YouTube or free code camp, right? Coming on to learning a programming language, yes, I'm a firm believer that until and unless you solve some problems in a programming language, you can say that you learn that language, right? So there was CP comes in. CP stands for competitive programming. So competitive programming, you can go do it on CodeChef, CodeForces, HackerRank, LeetCode. There are a lot of platforms in the same. You can go solve ahead some questions. The reason why I'm saying that solve a question to understand a programming language is because when you solve a question, right, you first have to understand the question and then apply the logic with that language. And that's where you learn the language. So that's my reason of, promoting people to get into CP. Again, I'm not getting into the conflict of CP versus dev. This is not the scope of this presentation, at least today. So skipping on that and moving ahead. Okay. So next thing comes in the list is Git. Right. So what is Git? A lot of students who are listening to this and whoever is starting in this domain, I'm just hoping that you would know how to use a computer and you have done that in the past. You have made some school projects at least. Right? Has this ever happened to you that you made one document with the like essay dot doc? Then it was like you did some changes and then it happened final essay dot doc. Then is bar pakka. Okay, this is definitely it. So, it happened that same way in software also. It happened that when there were multiple developers working, right? Some people did some changes, some people did some other changes. So, how to control these changes, how to monitor this? That is what Git does for us. Git, in simple language, is a version control system. Yes, sounds like a jargon. You might have went up for your head. But again, related to this example of essays that is available on your screen, right? So you can see that if you have to contain multiple copies, what you did in the past, you have to contain that also, and you have to get the recent version of the program or the essay if you're saying that also. That's where Git comes in. Right? Git is a version control system. It will help you throughout your journey, not only as an engineer, but as a software developer, whatever you're working. If you get into IT industry and you have to write code, I think that you cannot survive without learning Git. So even if after watching the session don't move ahead with DevOps, right? you move ahead with ML or you move ahead with data science or blockchain, I don't know. You still need Git. That is a must in my list. So go ahead, learn Git. Again, the question comes for resources. Git, I think you can learn with some basic YouTube videos. It's not a very big of a concept. At least the initial stage is not big of a concept that I have to add. But yeah, moving ahead, you can't survive without Git. That I will say. Moving to the next slide. So, Linux, right? So, as you see the picture in this, Linux is the only option. Being a DevOps engineer and being a person who has been using Linux for like 3 years now, I must say that if you are a person who uses Windows or who is using any other operating system, I don't think that other than Windows, you have a problem in any other operating system. But if you are comfortable with Windows and you are trying to break into a software industry role, I would strongly suggest you get Linux. Now, I know it is overwhelming for me also. I remember I troubled a lot of my seniors for this because I was not sure that I will break my computer, right? And my parents bought it for me. I was unsure that should I get Linux or not. So there are multiple ways in which you can get your Linux and you'll not disrupt your Windows system as well, right? So you can get a dual boot. That is what I have done on my personal laptop. On my personal laptop, I have a Windows partition and I have my Linux partition. So you can do that. If even that is very much overwhelming for you, I will have some alternatives that I will suggest. You have Google Cloud Console. So Google Cloud has a Linux system that it provides for free for any account. I think it's 30 hours per week. I'm not very much sure the exact limit, but you can go check it out. You'll learn the basics of Linux commands. You can go and check out Code Cloud. Code Cloud is a very amazing platform for getting started in DevOps in general, not only Linux. I'm suggesting Linux over here because that's the first point that Code Cloud actually comes in the picture. I don't think learning programming language or Git would be the first place for go to Code Cloud. But when it comes to Linux, yes, Code Cloud has an amazing platform and it has amazing resources on it. Go check it out. Then there are Linux Foundation courses. So the company itself is providing you the courses for free, and you can check that out. Why do I say that getting into DevOps Linux is important? You see, whenever you're working at DevOps, right, whatever system that you're operating with, whatever computer, whatever server that you're operating with, that is run on Linux. That will run on Linux. Anyhow, it will run on Linux. In that case scenario, you should know how to use a computer without any UI. Right, it sounds scary to a new person that without the mouse and pointer, I will use a computer. But that's what makes it so interesting to me, at least. I can operate a whole big computer, a bunch of computers with only a terminal screen, right? As it shows in that movies, right? That with that code green screen, black screen and green text, you control a lot of things. That's actually true. We can do that. I do that as a job for daily basis. That, on a black screen with green text, I control a lot of computers. So that's the reason that I have put up Linux over here. And I am kind of very much prominent on this point that a student should learn Linux. There is no alternative for it. That's why it's said that leave Windows. But nothing for, I'm persisting. But yes, please switch to Linux. Okay. Moving to the next point, making projects, right? So here comes a point about DevOps. A lot of people want to get started with DevOps. They learn a language, they learn Git, they learn Linux, but still that is not enough to get started in DevOps. In the initial presentation, the very first slide when I was starting to talk about DevOps, I did say that DevOps is a person who is maintaining the code written by someone else on the internet for everyone. Right? Now, the key component in this is that code which someone else has written. You need that, right? Only then you can maintain it and provide to someone else. So that is where the point of projects comes in. So you build projects. I'm not saying very big projects. I'm saying simple to-do list app will do, a simple API calling website will do, a simple web app will do where you are connecting it to a database or something like that, right? Make that project and then deploy it. That's where you'll start learning DevOps. So that's the points that I've created in this slide, as you can see, that when you're making a project, yeah, this is a interesting point according to me. When you're making a project, right, a lot of people don't make projects that I've seen is they think that this is already there, this is existing in the world. Why should I build it? Right? You are making a project, you're not making a product. Get this clear through your head. The purpose of a project is to learn. And when the purpose is learning, it does not matter if it helps anyone else or not. It just matters is that is it helping you to learn, right? That's the key point of all of it. So when you're making a project, don't force yourself to, or drag yourself to thinking that I should have an idea that is unique, everyone should use, and XYZ, blah blah blah. Does not matter. You have an idea, you just pick it up, build it out. If you don't like, leave it. Just let it be there. You can make another project. To be honest, I am a person who takes up a side project every month and build something and then leave that project. That's just a very common thing in software developers, right? Now, coming to the next point that you see, learn as you go. This is a concept that one of my college seniors taught me, and I preach on this and tell it to everyone that I can meet. So, Vishwa Bhaiya, if you're seeing, he taught me this. So he taught me this concept of learn as you go. Learn as you go means that I have to build a project. Suppose I have to make a clone of Amazon today. Now I don't go ahead and start learning everything that what Amazon does, right? I'll start with the first thing, like a basic HTML website of Amazon. I'll start learning that first. I'll first learn how to make that website. Then when that's done, that's the next step that comes in is that I learn how to integrate that HTML website with a database. That I will learn how to integrate that HTML page with a authentication page. That's the purpose of learn as you do. That as soon as you are making projects, as the requirement comes, you start learning and you go ahead and do more. Right? Next is a philosophy that I preach and I do a lot is fail more and implement first. It means that if suppose I have to build a project in Rust tomorrow, I don't know any of Rust. I'm not ashamed of agreeing and saying it on camera. I don't know any of Rust, and tomorrow I'm needed to work on Rust. I will not go ahead and learn Rust from the starting, from scratch and everything. I'll first take up a small project that okay, how to make an API call on Rust. That's my first step. I'll go and try learning that. Now, while implementing, obviously because I don't know any of Rust, I'll run into a lot of errors. But those errors will teach me. A very good analogy that if you have to take, has it ever happened to you that someday you were in a class test, right? College test or school test or tuition test, I don't know, and you did some mistake. You saw that your numbers were cut over there. After that, you never make that mistake, right? After you realize that, okay, this was my mistake, you never do that. That's the concept that goes over here, that if you run into an error while implementing a project, that error stays with you, that concept stays with you, and you'll never forget. And that's a good thing, right? That you never have to go back and look into this, that why this error came up. I'm not able to figure out why what this error is. You've already failed at that once. You could never face that error again because you know how to solve that. Right? Another point in making projects is that whenever you're making a project, don't let that sit on your computer idly. It is of no use, according to me, if you are making a project. It does not matter if it's a good project or a bad project that I said in the first, uniqueness is not a must. So it does not matter what your project is, whether it's big, whether it's small, whether it's a spaghetti code, like the code is not written well. I have a lot of projects that are not written at all well. It's very bad code. But I still have it on my GitHub or GitLab because I want to let the people know that I have been working on this from this time. If you go and see my GitHub right now on GitHub, also if you write GitHub 29, you'll find my ID and you'll see my first commit was back in 2019 or 2020. I was not even building a lot of things over there at that time, but I still have commits from there. The reason being that you go and see my GitHub, you can see that I have been working since then. And that matters to a lot of companies, to a lot of recruiters. They do check that. That since when you have been building, since when what you have been working on, right? Yeah, and this also for sure. No one will go ahead and check your GitHub project, see the spaghetti code, and reject you. No one does that. No, it's just an indicator that you are serious on your career and you're working on it. Now, when all of these points are covered on the project and your project is built, it's on GitHub or GitLab. Now the point comes is deploy. You make that project available for the whole world. That then and there is DevOps. That's the whole point of DevOps. We make that project available to the internet. You can check this project link that is there on the screen. That is one of my pet projects that I have been building for 5 or 6 months now. And if you like that project, you can go ahead start it out. But yeah, moving on to the next item, containerization. Now, this is neck deep into DevOps. Welcome, guys. Welcome, folks. You are neck deep into DevOps now. What is the meaning of containerization is? Suppose I have to ship, when import export happens, there are a lot of vehicles that get shipped, and also small items like these phones get shipped, right? So, how do you think that these different sizes, different types of products are shipped overseas? These are shipped in containers, right? Those big containers that you see, that can anything you can put in them, right? And the ship will ensure that it reaches its destination. No matter what is put in the container, it will be reached. Very similar analogy goes over here also. If you like, you can go ahead and scan this QR code. I have a good article on containerization, and you will understand what I mean by it. But for now, I will explain it to you in the most simplest language. Has it ever happened to you that you worked on your computer on some project or something, and you said that it's weird, it is working on my computer, but if I'm sending it to someone else, it's not working. And that happens. That happens to the all of it. And that's the whole point of DevOps service or containerization. And the point is that in containerization, we make sure that whatever you have built is built in such a way that it can run on any computer in the whole world. As you can see, it says in the meme itself. So I will explain you a little bit about Docker because when we are talking about containerization and DevOps, I cannot leave out Docker. So I'll explain to you in the most briefest language the concept of Docker. So Docker consists of three basic components. So Docker and containerization don't get confused. Dockers are containers. Docker makes containers, right? So containerization is the concept. Docker is the product that implements that. So in Docker, there are three main components that comes in picture. First is the Docker image. Sorry, first is the Docker file. Then is the Docker image, and then are the Docker containers. So containers, as I told you, containers are the places where anything can run. It's an independent. Always think of a container as a brand new computer. You bought a brand new MacBook, and that's simply a container. In the most layman language, if I have to explain. Now coming to the Docker image and Docker file, what does that do? Let's forget for a moment about code. I'll explain it to you with a simple analogy of songs. Has this ever happened to you that suppose there is a song, right? I print out the lyrics of the song and I give it to three different people and tell them to sing the song. Although all the three people are singing the same song, it's not necessary that it will sound the same to me. Not necessarily what it will definitely not sound the same to me, right? If three people are singing the same song, it will not sound the same. So what is the hack towards it? That I want to hear the same song from three different sources. I send them a pen drive with the song, right? I send them the MP3 of the song, or I send them the CD. I don't know if people can relate to CDs, but yeah, I can send them the song in a MP3 format that you just go ahead and play. Now, when they are playing that MP3 song, that will sound same to everyone. Correct? That's how Docker comes in. So the Docker file is the lyrics of your code, and the Docker image is the MP3 version of your code. Containers, containers are the VCD players or the computers or your laptops where you just plug in the MP3 and play it out. So that's about containers. I think I over talked about it, but yeah, moving on to the next part of the journey. Next part is cloud. This is one of the biggest topic that exists in DevOps. A lot of companies are just pouring in. millions and millions of dollars on this. This is the exact technology that we use on our day-to-day life, and we don't even, realize that we are using it. So when it comes to cloud, there are different platforms: AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, Oracle, and a lot of other cloud providers are out there. Apprite also introduced their cloud very recently. So what does cloud means is that if I have to run my code, I can't leave it running on my laptop and believe that everyone will use it. Why? Someday my laptop will get closed. Someday electricity will go out. We are living in India. Someday the Wi-Fi might go down. Again, we might be using some other service provider. So that is the point of a cloud. Cloud is just you are using someone else's computer, as it says in the name. So we are renting out computers from AWS and using it through that console that I told you, right, in the Linux part of the presentation. So with that Linux terminal window, you use every computer that are provided in the cloud. Cloud has a lot of tools. I'm not only saying that it's a virtual machine, it has a lot of tools. You can get started with it. There are a lot of programs, scholarships for students that are happening right now as I talk. Go ahead, check it out. I think Microsoft has sessions now and then that they do for people getting started in Azure. Same does Google. I have been a person who has been a mentor in the Google Cloud program, Google Cloud Ready program, and I have learned a lot. Coached a lot of people into cloud. So there are several programs that are going on. You can go and check them out, right? AWS is a very good skill, irrespective if you are not coming into DevOps. Even if you pursue a career in machine learning, or even if you pursue a career in normal software development, or any other domain, I would still suggest you to at least learn cloud, because this is how the internet works today. You should know how to use cloud, because one day or another you will run into this, and that will be very helpful to you. Moving on to I think this would be the second last topic. Sorry, the last topic of this, right? How to get started with DevOps. So when it comes to DevOps, there are a lot of tools, a lot of tools. Like if you don't believe me, go and check out the CNCF. CNCF has a list of companies or tools. You'll find out there are more than 300 or 500 tools as we speak right now. Is that true? 300 maybe, or maybe more than that. I have not counted. Now, the point is that do you need every tool in your bucket? Do I know every tool? No, sorry, I don't. The point is that you learn the basics once, and then you learn on the go, as I told you earlier. So some basic tools that a DevOps engineer must know is, first of all, Kubernetes. Kubernetes, hands down, is the tool or the platform which every company is using. Not every company, that's invalid claim, but most of the companies are using today. And then comes Prometheus and Grafana. These are observability tools in which you can check out that is my computer working fine, are there some errors. Same comes with ELK and Datadog. They are observability and monitoring tools. Then comes Terraform. Terraform is a very good tool which can be used to spin up different computers with the help of code. So that is a part of infrastructure as code tool. Same comes with Ansible, and the list just goes on and on. As I told, as it's written, I know very little, but it's okay. Now, do you have to put a limit that I need to know this tool? I have to know this tool? No, not necessarily. You play around with some of them. You play around with them on a basic scale. And to be honest, you can't you can't be confident in any one of the tool until unless you get in the industry, because these tools can only be learned when there is a good amount of traffic and you run into errors. When you're running a personal project, you'll not run into errors and you'll not feel that you have learned anything. So this confidence you'll get on a job only. That is why I'm saying that you should just know the knowledge, the basic introduction of how to use this, how to use the webhooks, how to plug Datadog into your Kubernetes cluster. That's enough, and that's the point that you're absolutely ready to say that you are a DevOps engineer and you can start applying, right? Coming to applying, that's the next part of the presentation. That's opportunity. So DevOps as a role, I have tried to get a job in DevOps. Right? So if I have to tell about software development, no offense, but I believe that software development engineer as a job title is very vague. People get into front-end development, back-end development, machine learning, compiler designing, they write drivers, and that's called software development. So it's very vague, to be honest. That is why there is a lot of opportunities in the term of software development engineering. And when it comes to DevOps, yes, I do agree that there are limited opportunities if compared to that. Now, how do you get those opportunities? First of all, is the hiring platforms. I personally prefer LinkedIn a lot. Then there are some other platforms such as something like LinkedIn. After that, there comes in is Indeed. Then there is, I have not personally tried a lot of them, but yeah, I stick to LinkedIn and that's enough. And after that, the point is keep on applying. You don't know that which company will hire you. So keep on applying to a lot of opportunities. And the law of average comes in picture. So more you apply, more are the chances that you get hired in some company. Next thing that I firmly believe that if you have to get into DevOps, start to open source. In open source domain, since I told you that DevOps is a smaller domain, not a lot of people are doing DevOps. So the good thing that comes out of is this that we know a lot of people. We know each other, right? Right now, if I'm working in DevOps, I know a lot of good people who are working on open source codes. So go ahead and try to contribute in different projects such as Kubernetes, Datadog, or somewhat project that you like. Go and try to contribute in them or make an open source project of your own. Next is a topic that is known as build in public. Build in public means whatever you're doing in your life, whatever you're doing in your career, in your journey, document that journey on a social media. I am not saying that you should do it on Twitter only or you should do it on LinkedIn only or Instagram. I'm not making that sure. I'm just telling that try to let the world know that what you're doing, right? That has helped me a lot. A lot of opportunities came to me only because I have been talking about what I do. And they were like, okay, hey, you are doing this. We are also doing this. Would you be interested in working with us? So that's one thing that comes up. Even if you think that what you're doing is very basic, very silly, does not matter. You can still put it out. Yeah, don't put down cringe content. I'm not saying that. But yeah, if you're working something solid and you think that yes, this is something that is, worth learning, keep on posting it. People do approach you, and I have been approached by a lot of companies, a lot of dream companies of many people, just because I was building in public, and the company and the recruiter, even managers just ping me that, hey, you're working on this. I wanted to buy it off your hands. That those kind of offers also came to me. Right? Another thing that helps me is writing blogs. I write a lot of blogs. Actually, if my on my tab itself right now, I'm writing an article. So I write articles related to anything such as whatever I find interesting or whatever I learned over the weekend, and I document it out. Somewhat it's for the world, and somewhat it's for me because after a while I also forget that what I did and how I did it. So write down blogs that help you a lot. A lot of people will read your blogs and again will approach you that okay, this looks interesting. We'll love to work with you, or would you work with us? Making videos, again, I'm a little skeptical on this point because I don't make videos, so I don't preach what I don't do. But I have seen a lot of people who have done good enough in the community with making videos and putting down tutorials or just talking about what they worked on. So that's another way to go for it. And if you find any good opportunity, do share it with me also. I think that's the end of the presentation. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for your attention. And I surely believe that I helped someone today. And if you have any questions that you would like to ask regarding DevOps or my career in general, I'm here. But if we do we have any questions at this point? I don't see much questions in the chat. Okay, someone is asking for resources. If I have to tell in general about the resources in general, what are my best things to go is, first of all, I'll go to Free Code Camp. That's a very good resource for anything that I have to learn. I'll go on to YouTube because a lot of content creators have good videos over there. Moving with time, I have got into a habit of reading, so I go on to read on articles. Right, so that's all about resources that I can share, and we are on the internet. You can find out more resources, whatever works for you. It does not matter that this is the best resource. There is no thing such as best resource. Sorry. Okay, I see a question. Can you elaborate on CI/CD pipelines? Okay, so that's a very good question. That because as a CI/CD developer, CI/CD engineer, I do make a lot of pipelines. So understand this way that a company is a very big organization. There are like 500 developers, 1,000 developers probably, and everyone is writing code and committing to the project. Now the problem is how do we ensure that each piece of code is correct and each piece of code will not break the product, right? That's a very big question and that's a very big problem. That is what is solved by, first of all, CI. That is solved by continuous integration. CI CD both, although works very slightly together, but both are different things. So first of all, we'll talk about CI. That is continuous integration. The problem that I mentioned. How does we make sure that this code does not break the changes, break the product? That is what CI does. If there are a lot of teams, a lot of developers pushing their code, we'll build a CI pipeline. What this CI pipeline will do is it will take the code off your hand, it will run it on some XYZ computer, on an independent computer, and it will check for itself that okay, this will not break. This is not breaking any of the pre-existing features. It will not break the features of some other developer. It is not, getting in conflicts with some other feature. That's what CI does for us. Now coming to the part of CD. CD is continuous deployment. What does continuous deployment do is continuous deployment is not actually a tool. It's more of a practice, a set of practices that different companies uses. So has it ever happened to you that you have got an update for WhatsApp, but your friend doesn't? You might have seen it on Instagram that that the button moves left and right for you, but it has not moved for your friend. And after a while, after a few days, your friend also gets that update. So the point of continuous deployment is that we as software developers have, because we have been doing it for a long time, this industry has learned that if you have a new version of a product, you can't do it like I will take this version off and I'll put this new version in place. You can't do that. Why? There will be a downtime. And in this today's world, everyone is connected throughout day and night. It's not like the internet goes off for 1 hour, right? It's not like that. Every time, every second, there is a user on the product. So continuous deployment, what it does is that it will divide there are different strategies, of course. There is canary deployment, there is A/B shift, and different. CD pipelines, what we do is that we will select a set of people and will introduce the new feature only for them. After a while, what we'll do is that once we see that those set of users are not getting a lot of errors with that new product, right, the new version, then we slowly release it to the next set. And that's way we replicate it all around the world. So we ensure that the product or the new features that were developed by the developers actually works. It is not causing problem. And even if it caused problems, it did not cause to the whole user, right? It just caused the problem to a set of users. So that's what CD does, and that's what my work looks like. I make CI/CD pipelines. I make sure that the developer who is writing code can check their code and it works with the rest of the features, and make sure that the product goes on production and does not break. Okay, so there is another question. I find it hard to read the code for contributing on GitHub. Could you give a lead on how to start reading the code? Yeah, so this is a problem. And you know what, Shivam? I'll tell you. This problem will persist until and unless you are a developer. Every day you will go, every time you go into a new company, I go into a new company, and there is a code base that I don't understand. And I have to work there now. That's where open source, helps you a lot. You get into the habit of understanding the code base of anyone. Now, what's the trick to it? How do you understand? How do you contribute to someone else's code? When you're building a project of your own, you know it from scratch because you have built it from scratch. You know every line of code, every word which you have written. But what about open source? What about someone else's code? Obviously you need their help or need to understand why they did this or why he did this or she did this and why this was written. The key to this is that you go ahead and you take just one function or one part of the code. You try to understand that and then you trace it back that where it came from. So the purpose would be suppose that there is some problem that is triggering wrong emails, right? To the wrong users, it's triggering emails. Now you find in the code that where is that email API being called. You pick that up, you read that function, you understand that function. If it uses some other variables, you track that variables down. So it's actually like a very good detective movie, to be honest, that you take one piece of clue and then you move to the next one, the next one, next one. And that's the process. Don't try to understand the whole project whole at once because it is not very possible to do that. In bigger projects, not possible for anyone to do that, not even the best developers in the world. Even they can't say that they know everything. I hope that answers my question. Any else question? I don't think, Bhakti, that we have more questions, right? And people, if you still want to connect to me, you can scan this QR code. If anyone is more interested, if they you have some question and or even if you have missed the session right now and you're watching it in a recorded version, you can go scan this QR code, contact me, and I'll try to reply to you as soon as I get time.
Thank you so much, Prati, for your today's presentation on DevOps. It was very nice and amazing. Your knowledge and the expertise have guided us to get started with the DevOps in a very good manner. Also, I would like to thank all of our participants who have joined us in this lazy Sunday evening to get started with DevOps. I hope you find it informative and thought provoking. Also, definitely would have get some new ideas and knowledge on this topic. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me, Bhakti, and the whole team. It was a pleasure interacting on this platform, and I seriously hope that I helped someone today.
Thank you so much.